Okay, so again, if you're new to this, whenever I review a lot of the Marvel things or generally overall geeky stuff like Star Wars or other comic books, I generally give my overall thoughts at the beginning, and then I have a really big spoiler section, and then I kind of wrap things up after that. And there are certain breakpoints that'll be in there. So if you want to avoid spoilers, just look for the little commercial breakpoints, and then yeah, just skip to those. Okay. Okay, so the first two episodes of the Disney Plus Hawkeye series are out. My overall thoughts are I'm going to give them a B. I think this is probably setting up to be the best next to Loki in terms of these Marvel Disney Plus shows, at least so far. I think the chemistry between Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld is pretty good. I like Jeremy Renner and the actors who play his children as well. Hawkeye's children, that is. And there, it seems overall some good performances. Definitely setting up for some intriguing ideas. Definitely like some of the plot points that they've touched on. If I do have one real complaint, it's kind of hard to explain without getting too far into spoiler territory, but there are times where characters come across as maybe being a little stupid. I mean, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it. It's like they're a little stupid, and again, there's some kind of bogged down setup-y moments in there that are just a little, yeah. So they're just kind of like, okay, you're just doing this to explain the plot point, and that's it, and that's all this is. And you know, I think having the first two episodes rather than just the first episode really helps because by the time you're in the second episode, it's less of the explainy bits. So that's at least going for that's got some good going for it there. So yeah, I'm going to give it a B.
Dad, why would Spider-Man be on a bus?
Because he couldn't get a cab?
No way, there's the Hulk.
Hey, where are you guys going?
They're going to McDonald's, where you can find 8 of the greatest superheroes. Because with every hamburger Happy Meal you buy for $1.99, your kids get a superhero action toy, like the Invisible Woman or the web-whipping Spider-Man. One with each Marvel superhero's Happy Meal you buy.
Look, the Invisible Woman.
Have you had your break today?
Huh. I didn't see her on the bus.
Okay, so basically this is where everyone is kind of after Endgame. We'll get a bit into Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. We'll get to that in just a bit. But first and foremost, the backstory with Kate Bishop is that she comes from a family of wealth. It's a little bit like, I think her father came from some money in this. It seems to indicate that the house that they were, or the penthouse they were living in at the time, it was a family possession of his that he sort of inherited, and he was kind of getting into get-rich-quick schemes while her mother ran a security company. And in 2012, when the Chitauri attacked New York City, they were living there, and even though the marriage was kind of on its last legs and they were fighting a lot, you know, the Chitauri attack hit their apartment, and unfortunately, Kate's father was killed, and Kate saw Hawkeye take down a Chitauri craft that almost hit her. So she's been inspired to sort of try to emulate Hawkeye, who is her favorite Avenger. And, you know, you see a training montage where she gets into martial arts, archery, fencing. I'm trying to think what the other one was. You know, I got it right here. Archery. Yeah, martial arts, archery, the heck did I write there? Gymnastics, that's what I wrote, gymnastics. So yeah, she's kind of this overall athlete, but then you jump ahead, we jump ahead to the present, which is kind of a nebulous idea, because I believe the present in the MCU right now is 2023, actually. I mean, if you go, you know, if Avengers Endgame takes place in 2018, not an Endgame, Infinity War is 2018, and then Endgame is 5 years after that, then it would technically, yeah, it would be 2023, so it's Christmas of 2023. Kate is gotten into trouble at her college because she was attempting to use her homemade trick arrows to ring a bell, and unfortunately it caused the whole bell tower to collapse, and now she's on the hook for paying that as well. And she's going home. They still live in New York City, just, for reference point. And her mother has gotten a boyfriend, and she later finds out that the two are now engaged. The boyfriend is Jackson Duquesne. We'll get into him in just a couple seconds here. But yeah, but sort of to start making up for this, Kate has to attend this charity event at the Duquesne residence, where she sees Jackson's uncle Armand and Kate's mother, whose name just escapes me, but arguing, and she follows Armand into the basement where she sees this illegal auction where two things that are up for bid are a sword and a suit that belonged to Ronin, which, if you recall, was the identity that Clint Barton took during the Blip years, where he was going around killing mobsters, and so this has gotten to be quite infamous. Jack and Armand get into this bidding war over the sword. However, before anything else can happen, a group of Russian mobsters crash in. They're trying to steal everything because they want their own stuff. They're trying to steal a specific watch, actually. And in the midst of this, Jack grabs the sword, and Kate grabs the Ronin outfit. And Kate dons it to save a dog who's being attacked. This is Lucky, a.k.a. Pizza Dog. The dog in it's a one-eyed stray, but in the comics, the dog is named Lucky because he's been routinely hit by cars and managed to survive. But everyone knows him colloquially as Pizza Dog because all he ever eats is pizza. So that's the story there. And I guess this is where I need to get into who Jack is. Jack, who is going to be Kate's stepfather, or, well, technically going to be Kate's stepfather, and that is, he is a character called the Swordsman. A character was sometimes a villain, sometimes a hero, definitely played anti-hero, was even briefly part of the Avengers. When you ever hear talking about the Celestial Madonna saga, he played a big role in that. And he actually worked a lot with Hawkeye very early on, so there's kind of a dovetail in the whole mythos there. And, Kate puts on this costume, she comes to the dog's aid, she fights off a bunch of these guys. Unfortunately, they wind up sort of following her and tracking her, and also she gets caught on camera, and it turns up on the news, and this is where the Barton family kind of enters the fray, except for Linda Cardellini Barton, whose name I never really got, but Clint's wife, who's back at the hometown, and because they're preparing for their first Christmas together in 5 years, obviously. So, the kids are growing up. Clint has been invited to attend the Broadway premiere of a musical based on Steve Rogers' life, and they're singing about the Avengers, and this is where we get the first acknowledgement that Clint is suffering from hearing loss. And he later explains when he meets up with Kate Bishop for the first time that, basically all the years of being around explosions have, completely destroyed his ability to properly hear. And the musical is not very good, so he turns his hearing aid off to try to avoid it. But seeing anyone trying to pretend to be Black Widow kind of upsets him too, so the family, and kind of upsets his kids as well, so they all decide, let's just go for Chinese food instead. And the idea is, the next day they're supposed to be getting on this flight back to their home to, celebrate Christmas, but he sees this report about the Ronin, a new Ronin going out there, and this is where one of the weird plot points comes up, because they keep referring to the new Ronin as a guy, and it's like, you looking at that outfit, I'm not trying to disparage any gender fluid or non-binary people out there, so just understand. But if you were to look at that, why would you think that was a guy? Haley Steinfeld is not a guy. I mean, you could tell that's obviously a woman in that outfit. That is not a guy. And because of this, he goes out to track that down. he sees the Russian mobsters tracking Kate down, so he's following her. And so when they come back after her and they try to jump her in an alley, he comes to her rescue, and she recognizes him. That's kind of the other thing, is everywhere he goes, people know who he is, so it's kind of hard for him to just get those quiet moments sometimes with his family that he just really wants. And so she starts talking about how important he was to her and everything, and he says, well, okay, but you can't be wearing that outfit, I really need that. Like, he doesn't explain that he was Ronin to her, but yeah. And however, in the process, it turns out the Russians followed her again, and they know her name because her name is on for the intercom to her apartment. So they learned who she is, and they set her apartment on fire, and they have to get out of there with the dog and everything, but they leave the suit behind because it's just in a spot where they really can't get to it. And they have to go to Kate's aunt's apartment. Her aunt is in Florida. And so kind of from there, it's like, well, now he knows Kate is in too deep, and he's in a little too deep, so they need to work on, one, getting the suit back, and two, defeating the Russian mafia threat. And it turns out that when the fire department came, one of the firefighters stole the suit so he could use it in his LARPing group. So you get Clint Barton joining a LARPing group. And so you get the joy of seeing Jeremy Renner participating in a LARP, swinging a cardboard sword around. And finally, Clint basically just has to sacrifice himself. He says, look, if you let me kill you, and I could say I killed an Avenger, I'll give you the suit. Okay, he obviously doesn't let him kill it. It's in the LARP, live-action role-playing, for those of you who don't know what LARPing is. And meanwhile, Kate is trying to peg things on her uncle because she knows, or not her future stepfather, because she knows he is up to no good. In fact, at one point she doubled back to the Duquesne residence and found Armand Duquesne murdered. And, so she doubled, and she was in the Ronin costume when that happened. So that's also how the Russians were able to track her. And, because of this, Ronin is also a suspect in Armand's death. And added to that even further, now the police are trying to talk to her because, one, she was at this place where she was at this charity event where Russians were attacking, and then suddenly her house also caught on fire. So there's kind of a, hey, what's going on here? So we now have a law enforcement angle in on this. At one point, Clint basically trying to figure out who is working with the Russian mafia, because he knows, even though they want the Ronin stuff, because he knows there's a bit more to it than just wanting the Ronin stuff. And he contacts them, and they basically say, like, look, we're not going to tell you anything, and they attack him and take him hostage. And as this is happening, too, Kate is getting into an argument with her mother and, to an extent, Jack. And she's trying to prove again that Jack knows more than he lets on, and even challenging him to a fencing contest. And he intentionally lets her win, but then she strikes an important attack, and he parries her sword to the point that it just breaks and kind of spins on the floor and falls to the ground. So it's like, hey, see, no one should have been able to make that move on instinct. That's something you really have to learn. And he's like, yes, I did let you win, but, I didn't want you to get hurt. Like, yeah, it's like, hey, I'm trying to be respectful here. But in the process afterwards, he offers her a butterscotch cookie, or not a butter cookie, a little piece of, like, Werther's Original that has the Armand Duquesne logo on it, because, yes, he has personalized, it turned out Armand Duquesne had personalized butterscotch, which was something that Kate made a note of when she broke back into his house. And so, yeah, hopefully you're still with me here, but yeah. And so she starts trying to call Clint, because he gave her his cell phone number, and so they're in the contact list now. And she's constantly sending him text messages and calling him. And it's like, gee, do you think that's going to happen down the line where Clint's wife finds this and starts wondering who the hell is Kate and why are you talking to her? I mean, that's obvious. That's an obvious setup that's happening, I think. And she manages, because her mother runs a security firm. She's able to use the security software to track down and ping Clint's phone so she can stage a rescue attempt, and in the process she herself gets caught. And it's there that the leader of this faction of the Russian Mafia comes out, and it's Maya Lopez, who you would know better as Echo, who also takes up the mantle of Ronin briefly in the comics. So yeah, we're getting that storyline. Although you think with them being Russians, you think it would have been Yelena Belova, especially given how the Black Widow movie ended. So yeah, those are kind of the little niggle things that just kind of kept a little bit behind on me. And again, there's a lot of stop and explain everything bits that do kind of slow the pacing of the story down. Like, I understand they have to explain some parts, but there's a lot of them, and even in 2 episodes it can be a lot to take. So yeah, that's kind of why I gave that a B.
Jackson with a repulsive blast, Captain America throws a shield for fast. Thor's hammer makes thunder and lightning crash, and the whole kit's hard with a big Hulk splash.
All new Avengers Ultimate Heroes figures, each sold separately.
Avengers assemble!
Okay, so after this, the next video should probably be the random trade review, unless something comes up. The random trade review on Legion of Superheroes, Teenage Revolution. After that, it's NXT War Games. The next movie review is going to be obviously Spider-Man Far From Home. Then we're going to do Matrix Resurrection. And then obviously we'll probably also have the finale for Hawkeye, where I go over the rest of the episodes and my thoughts on those. And then I guess we'll probably start Book of Boba Fett, but that might not be until the beginning of next year. So that should take up the big review points for December, so see you all next time. Hey guys, remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcat productions, where you can help request a movie, even if it's something like, say, Sonic the Hedgehog or the next Purge film. I'll review it.